Hello there, Internet. Mogwai here, and I got another video for you guys today. Today we're going to venture into the Twitch Rivals winner deck, which is a Selesnya token deck built by Agravian. He's a Polish-English streamer who won the tournament with this Selesnya tokens list, and it's an archetype that's been rising a little bit alongside maybe some Bant versions of it. And to be quite honest with you, I've never been the most experienced tokens player. I'm not new to Selesnya's tokens as an archetype, and I faced it more so before Ravnica Allegiance hit. This sort of a strategy was much more prevalent, but it's making quite of a comeback, and I felt like I should showcase it off, in my channel a little bit, because I'm personally, quite the fan of it, honestly. I'm not the most skilled player with this sort of strategy, but I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to understand, especially like the sideboarding aspect of it. That's the one that's a little bit not as clear to me, right? Like it depending on the matchup, especially control matchups in general, it varies whether you're facing Nexus or you're facing something like Esper control, for example, right? So also mid-range matchups, it can be quite interesting, but yeah, like I said, I need to play this deck more and more to get the hang of it, and I felt like showcasing off a best of 3 series that I just recorded with you guys, alongside a little bit of a cool story about time explaining this deck list for you. So what is this deck list about? Well, this deck list is about swarming your opponent, spreading out a bunch of units, and then just knocking them the hell out with either a Tristani Discordant boost, Venerated Loxodon Tempo, maybe those two things together. But one of the things that I really want to highlight with this video is the Unbreakable formation. This card was introduced with the Ravnica Allegiance set, and it is a very, very powerful card. Did not really see as much play as I anticipated to, receive at first. A lot of white aggro decks kind of ignored this card at first. It's seen more and more play now, but to be completely honest with you, it took a while for this card to get the recognition that I feel it truly deserves. And it is a powerhouse of a card, as if you play this in your main phase, not only do you give a +1/+1 counter, vigilance, and indestructible to your creatures, well, yeah, you do all that. I was going to say, not only you give it a +1/+1 counter, but also you give them indestructible and vigilance, which is sort of a similar effect to what Song of Freyalize does, even though Song of Freyalize also gives you trample. But Song of Freyalize is an enchantment saga from the Dominaria set that, Chapter 3 has a very, very similar, effect to this, except, like I said, it gives you trample, right? And it's a very powerful one at that. This one is more of an immediate effect, and it is extremely powerful in this sort of strategy. We have Legion's Landings as our 1-drop alongside Flower Flourish, which is a very, very efficient card in this deck. It's quite the utility, as it enables you to search for specific land drops in the first few turns, so you can curve out properly, but also is a very strong top deck in the late game, as you can cast it for 6 mana on Flourish to give all of your creatures +2/+2 until the end of the turn in the form of a sorcery. So if you have a developed board state, this card can just easily give you a tremendous boost and enable you to just blast your opponent away with a full-on Storm attack. We have 3 copies of Tide Taker, which is really good versus control decks, Nexus, and Esper controls, and other control variants, as the counter spells become harder to cast, and that really goes a long way. And also, on top of that, you have a unit that leaves something behind after dying, so also really useful versus matchups which have AoE, right? Overall, one of the best 2-drops in white as of right now, in my opinion, and definitely very important for this deck. We have one of Incubation Druid, which helps the deck ramp up a little bit, and I think it's pretty flexible and pretty solid for the list as a one-off. Like, it's a very interesting addition, which was, exclusive, I believe, to Agravian's list, which is this one, obviously. 4 copies of Cyberlink Migration, because 2 mana create 2 creatures. Staple Swarm type of card. 3 copies of Amara, Soul of the Accord, very staple for Selesnya token deck list. 4 History of Benalia, because we're playing white aggro, or an aggressive white deck, so we play 4 copies of History of Benalia. 2 Unbreakable formations, like I said. The Conclave Tribunals, which are very, very key in numerous matchups. Prime source of removal, really, even against the control decks. As you're going to see in the best 2 out of 3, this card really comes into play, even against the likes of Nexus decks, as they can be used to remove pretty much any sort of permanent. So Planeswalkers, enchantments, creatures, no matter what it is, this card can come in clutch, removing like 1 key card that the opponent is using to slow you down, and just very, very powerful because of the fact that we can cast this with Convoke. So that means we can tap our own creatures to be able to cast this and go ahead of the curve mana-wise in that sense at the expense of perhaps an attack. We have 4 Elephants because Elephants are very good in swarmy decks, 3 Tristani Discordants, and 4 March of the Multitudes. So like I said, it's tricky to play this deck though because it may seem pretty straightforward at first. You know, just create a swarm, and then Unbreakable formation and profit. But it's quite tricky because you have to adapt to the matchup and you have to know exactly how to curve out the best way to because of Convoke adds a lot of interesting decision making, because if you're going to use one of your creatures as a mana source for one of your Convoke spells, you are, like I said, sacrificing an attack that turn with that creature. So you have to identify in which scenarios you have to go for speed or aggression, or in which scenarios you have to build up. You also can't make yourself truly vulnerable to AoE spells at the same time, because there are stuff like Goblin Chain Whirlers running around, and of course spells like Deathling Clarion or Gates decks with Gates Ablaze, etc., etc. You know, Cry of the Carnarium. There's a lot of efficient AoE that can just be very, very devastating. So it's gonna hit you hard no matter what, because of the type of deck we are. But understanding, you know, the specific matchup and knowing not to overcommit and when to be aggressive and when to go for the full board, it's very important. And one of the tricky things of this deck, like for me, piloting this sort of build is still a little bit difficult. Like I said, I'm not completely used to this archetype, as I am more of a mid-range player and control. You know, I like playing some mid-range control decks mainly. So playing this sort of strategy is can be quite challenging sometimes, but it is definitely very rewarding and a very fun way to play Magic. You know, you build up your army and then you smack them for 1 billion damage. It's absolutely glorious. We got 3 Identifying Vanguards, 3 Baffling Ends, 3 Craw Harpooners for the mono blue matchup, 3 Knight of Autumns for matchups in which we need to destroy artifact or enchantments, or for example, mono red matchups in which we need to gain life. Very flexible 3-drop that takes, you know, or provides really good utility for many different sorts of matchups. Like I said, 2 Ajani, Adversary with Tyrants for games that will drag out quite a bit, aka control matchups or mid-range games as well. And I like to run 1 of Lyra, even though Agriven's list runs 1 of Vivian. I think Lyra can be very, very key in mono red games, and I wanted to add it just because of that. Also very good against mono blue tempo as well, which I think is very, very popular. And I think sometimes 3-Craw Harpooners isn't necessarily enough, so I do like that one off of Lyra Dawnbringer. That's my own personal edition, but you know, it's my take on it, right? Like, this deck can definitely be tweaked and built several different ways, but I want to start off with a list that proved itself. And I want to give a shout outs to, like I said, Agriven for building it and for doing so well in Twitch Rivals with it. It was really cool to see this deck win and overcome the likes of Sultai midrange, which was quite prevalent, and mono blue tempo and all the Rakdos midrange running around as well. And I hope we get to see more of this. I'll definitely be diving into it, and I'll try to get better at it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this rather extensive ramble. I went at it for 8 minutes, but I really wanted to explain this deck as best as I could, and hopefully you guys enjoy the best of 3 series that I got ready for you. And that's all I gotta say. Have a whole day. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more daily MTG videos. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, here we go. Let's get some discipline in there. I have dropped my rank a little bit. I actually dropped all the way to top 1,000 because I was testing different variants of a Grixis deck. And I climbed back to 583, but you know, we got a bit of catching up to do. I still have yet to make it to that top 8, but I figured this would be a good point to record with this deck. I am less experienced with Selesnya tokens, but it is a deck that I want to understand and get better at. As this hand, I'm not sure what to think about it, honestly. We have double planes and Allegiance landing to lead off with, but we don't really have much more going on for us. I think this is a mulligan, honestly. Like, we have a turn 1 play, right? And a lock set on it. I mean, we could draw into, you know, Tide Takers, into things, but realistically speaking, I think this is a mulligan, actually. I have a Flower Flourish, which means this hand actually looks a little bit better. If I have a land, yes, this hand is better. Actually, this is fucked up. I'm not gonna use I'm not gonna use my Flower Flourish, because if I do, I shuffle my deck. So that means that I won't draw this second land guaranteed, and I think it's better to do this. We're gonna lead off with the Tide Taker. I'm gonna call it a turn. If we draw into another planes, we can curve out into History of Renalia. If not, okay, we're facing a Nexus deck, it seems. Bant Nexus. If not, we should probably just Sapperly Migration, to be honest. Like, I could Flower... No, I should Flower Flourish. But unfortunately... Oh, yeah, of course. I can just tap this. Yeah. We Flower Flourish. We search for another planes. We get the planes in here, and we play into our Sapperly Migration. And we smack him in the face. The game is a little bit laggy, but I just literally just rebooted my MTG Arena client, so... Okay, here we go. We have not really applied enough pressure, unfortunately. And our opponent has already gotten the Wilderness Reclamation on the board, so it is already looking a little bit tough for us, as we have not been able to apply enough pressure. I mean, Tide Taker makes it so that, you know... Oh boy, here we go. I mean, the key thing about this... the problem is if he has a Nexus of Fate, he can play it now. Yep. Yikes. Because I was saying that if he didn't Nexus of Fate there, with 5 mana he could not play a Root Snare with my Tide Taker on the board, but yeah, this is looking extremely rough. Like, our opponent has gone off tremendously, and if he may just have another Nexus of Fate in hand. Yep. And honestly, we're not at a point where we threaten him enough, so we're just gonna concede here. As simple as that. This game is already over. That was quite quick, but unfortunately, that's just how it is. We're gonna add in 3 copies of Knight of Autumn because it does destroy Wilderness Reclamation, and we're gonna add in a couple of Johnnies. We need to keep the Venerary Loxodons, as you know, because they are our way to really apply as much pressure to our opponent as possible. We should also... It's rough. As much as I like a Johnny, I'm not sure this is the matchup for it, because in this matchup we need speed. But we also need to be able to interact with his Wilderness Reclamation. Like, that's the most important thing. So I think we can take out perhaps 1 March of the Multitude. 1 Trostani Discordant. Like I said, speed. Speed is everything we're about. But I do like the Loxodon, because the Loxodon can really give us pressure here. I also need the removal, though. Honestly, maybe 1 Flower Flourish. I'm not the most experienced sideboarding with this deck, like I said, but for this matchup, I think we need to sacrifice some utility here. 1 Trostani and 1 March of the Multitudes for swiftness. Because that is what we need. We need to apply pressure quick. Because this is not like in other control matchups in a dragged out game, we can have a Johnny and stuff. But against Nexus, we don't really want the game to drag out, because that'll just make things extremely difficult for us. We have to mulligan this, unfortunately, because we only have a forest. This is really bad. Do I keep this hand and hope that I draw into a white source of mana? I am gonna do that. I have to do that. I have to believe that I can top deck a white source of mana, because otherwise, yep, I took a risk and I got punished. Oh. Not super punished, but still somewhat punished. We haven't been able to apply enough pressure. We do have a Conclave Tribunal, So if we see a Wilderness Reclamation, we will go for it. We'll apply this, and then we'll play you. And we'll go face. And we'll go for it again. But we have to think about how we can maximize this, okay? So we have 4 units, but if we tap this, we technically have 5. So we can do this. We can tap you. We can cast 3, tap you, we get 4, and then we play you. I'm gonna do that. So we Conclave Tribunal. And then we play the Loxodon. We take away the second Wilderness Reclamation. And now we have a very, very powerful board state. And now's when we hit him. We hit him hard, boys. And we got him. All right. Okay. That worked out. I risked it a lot. Yeah, we can't do that. Okay, I was looking over that. I risked it a lot with that hand, but that is exactly how we need to approach this matchup. We need to have enough removal for the Wilderness Reclamation, and we need to pressure him. I think we got to keep everything as it is. Incubation Druid can put in a lot of work. He's a Bant version, so Adanto Vanguard doesn't really do much here. Tide Taker is very important, which is, like I said, keep it like it is. We need speed, and we need power, and we need removal. So we need to be selective with the hand that we keep. It's tricky. Like, facing a Nexus deck with this sort of deck, for me at least, is tricky because I don't have the most experience. But I think I'm getting an idea. See, this is a big mulligan here. We have to go for it. And this is a keep. This is a keep because we need speed, like I said. We don't have removal, like enchantment removal right now. Hopefully it doesn't curve out into a Wilderness Reclamation again, like right off the bat. All right. We need to pressure.
Sorry I'm late. Hold that thought.
I could play this for 1 token, but I think that's just not the best idea. He could have a Root Snare. If he doesn't, though, Okay, that reacted really quickly, so that leads me to believe that he does not have a Root Snare. Which means that we could kill Teferi this turn. But I think it's just better for us to do this.
Want me to phase you out of time?
Maybe we could have just gone face.
No time for a break.
Honestly, we may just should have gone face. It's a total of three units. We can just swarm the hell out of him and try to OTK him. Because if we have... It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Like, we could just, kill him in one shot. If we can kill Teferi this turn...
According to plan.
Okay. This is our opening. This is our opening. We have 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my god! Oh, we missed. Oh, not like this. We need him to not loop here. Fuck. We're not concerned about dying to this thing because he would need too many attacks that he would win anyways. But we need him to not go infinite here. We need him to give us one turn. We're so close, yet so far, man. We need him to not drop that Wilderness Reclamation. He can't Nexus anymore. Oh, God. Yeah, boy! There we go! Oh! Oh, boy. Discipline! Discipline prevails. Oh, my God, that felt good. Alright, we rank up. Not even bad. Okay, so I'm in a little bit of a hurry because I gotta start the streaming like shortly after this video. I didn't have the most time to record, so I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna do a best of 3 and we'll see how it goes. When I got Nexus, I was like, this is either gonna end really quickly or it's gonna be a dragged out misery. But we did it, you know? I still feel like there's things, you know, I need to improve in regards to like sideboarding with this list. Like I said, I'm not the most experienced Selesnya token player, but as you guys can see, this deck has tremendous potential, especially with the Unbreakable formation. Very, very powerful card. And, you know, it performed extremely well in Twitch Rivals. So, shout outs to Agravian. I still don't know if I'm butchering his name. But yeah, for this variant of the archetype, I really like this list, and I will be aiming to play it more and more to try to get better with it, because like I said, I'm not the most experienced token player. It's very different from what I usually play, but it's definitely an archetype that I want to get into and I want to explore more because it's fun as hell, and that felt so damn satisfying. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily MTG content. I fucking love ya. I'll see you tomorrow with more.